What's going on, world? Happy Tuesday. This is Derek Dunn with Reviews Dunn. I have the great honor of speaking with one of the greatest songwriters of my time, in my 20s. This man has written for Lionel Richie, Jill Scott, Will Smith, Justin Bieber, Chris Brown, Usher. The list goes on and on. I'm talking about the legendary Ryan Toby. How are you doing today, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Feeling good, man. I'm doing amazing, brother. I'm so happy to be on today with you.
All right. First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me out of your busy schedule. So my first question is, growing up in New Jersey, when did you know that you wanted to be a singer?
Well, I've been sort of like, rapping and breakdancing and all of that type of stuff as a kid since I was like, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Nothing professional, nothing in the sense of a career. Just roundaway kid, singing in church, getting in trouble in school for beating on the desk and rapping in the hallways with my friends and stuff. So I kind of always had the music bug. My mother could sing very well. She would lead the choir and stuff like that. And so her brother, my uncle, he's a singing pastor, preacher, evangelist, from the South that could really blow. So I grew up seeing singers, hearing the music, but there was never any talk about anything professional. It really wasn't until I saw, Michael Jackson, the Thriller album in the early 80s, just the whole campaign of the Thriller album, the Billie Jean videos, the Thriller video, obviously, the Beat It video. I was very young. I was about 6 or 7 at that time. I remember being in the first grade, and I remember the music video format and concept was a brand new concept still. MTV, was a new concept. So just seeing this platform and this visual expression as a young kid who didn't understand anything, I thought it was magical. You know what I mean? Watching Michael Jackson touch a wall and the wall light up and start glowing, and he's walking up the stairs and each step starts to glow, and I was like, does this guy have magical powers? Like, what is this? What am I looking at? And it was like it was a black guy, and he was a young, fly, handsome black dude with the cool glittery jackets and glittery gloves. And I just, as a child, I was like, what is that? Like, how do you become magic like that? Like, I didn't think Michael Jackson was a real person for a long time. I was like, he's not even real. Like, and so watching that, and then also at the simultaneously same time, Prince is coming along, and this guy's wearing this cool purple jacket, and he's got a purple motorcycle with a purple guitar slung on his back, pretty girl on the back of the motorcycle. Like, dog, it was like crazy. Another black man, you know what I mean? Fly as hell. It was just, I was drawn into that. I said, I don't even know what they're doing. I just know I want to do that. I didn't even understand how and how it came together. I didn't get like, oh, they're musicians and musicians make videos and blah, blah, blah. None of that. I was a child, so it was just like, you guys are magical. You get to do magical shit and ride off into the sunset on a beautiful purple motorcycle. And so that's when I started to just get this bug of like, I just want to do that, whatever that is. Watching Michael Jackson on Motown Live, the Motown 25th anniversary, when he debuted the moonwalk and all of that. Watching that with my family, I was sold. I said, I want to do that, whatever that is, standing on a stage, moving around, dancing around, singing, and people in the crowd going crazy. Whatever that's called, I want to do that. And that's when the bug really started to, I still didn't know anything about pursuing a career, but I definitely knew I needed to feel that energy. That's really what it was. I wanted to feel whatever that energy is that was coming through the screen at me and making me feel that way. I wanted to be able to give people that kind of energy. And so then from there, just, I was still just regular kid doing the same stuff, being a knucklehead, going to school, whatever, singing in little school plays and little talent shows, and nothing serious. And it wasn't until I was about 14 that I met my first manager, who was just the father of a friend, And my friend used to say, "Man, you could really sing. Like, you should think about doing, really, really pursuing it." And he's like, "Hey, I introduce you to my dad, and my dad knows people in New York." And coming from South Jersey, going to New York was everything. If you want to go shopping and get the dope fashion, you go to New York. You want to try to make it in the music business, you go to New York. You want to try to make it in acting, you go to New York. About an hour and a half drive from Exit 5, where I'm from, Willingboro, New Jersey, up the Turnpike. So he's like, "Yeah, anytime anybody talks about, oh yeah, I'm from New York, I'm from Brooklyn, or yeah, I bought these sneakers in New York, I'm from Harlem or whatever," it was just like, oh, that was a big deal back in the day. So when he said, "Yeah, my dad knows people in New York," who he knew specifically was, another question. His dad wasn't a big time manager or anything like that, but their family was from New York. They were from Harlem, and so his name was Marvin Thompson. And Marv was just a real cool dude. His family is from New York, and he was just a real fast talker, man. He knew how to talk his way into anything, and so he started working with me. He was like, "Yo, man, I think, with a voice like that, you can make $1 million, man." I sang for him one day at the barbershop, and he was just like, "Yo, I really want to work with you." He came to my house, met my parents, talked to my parents, and he was just like, "Man, I really think your son could be a star." And Marv was just a natural born hustler, whatever he believed in, he's just going to go hard, whether he knew how to do it or not. And so I was his first stab at the music industry, and he was my first stab at it. And together we found ourselves, a year later, we were in the studios. He had me performing at the Apollo amateur nights quite a few times, actually. Next thing you know, we were taking meetings. We were meeting different people. He was connecting a lot of dots, man. And we were taking meetings at record labels, and things just started to move forward from there.
How did you end up securing the role of Jamal in Sister Act 2?
So I secured the role of Jamal in Sister Act. Like I said, Marvin and I were making our rounds. We were starting to make a little bit of a name for ourselves. Like I said, Marvin was a fast-talking, Harlem hustler, man. He knew how to and he was bold. He'd walk up on anybody. He'd have me bust out singing for people right in the street. He didn't care. He'd be like, "Brian, hit that." He was like, he was a Joe Jackson type minus the violence. You know what I'm saying? But as far as the tenacity and just the ferocious attack of the game and just going for what Mark didn't care who it was. If he even had caught a whiff that you worked at a record label, he was on your neck. You know what I mean? Like, "Yo, you gotta hear my artist. You gotta hear my artist." And then he'd make me bust out and start singing. So doing that for so long, we ended up meeting a lady named Bobby Humphrey, who was a pretty well-known jazz flautist. She played the flute for years, had albums out for years, and she was connected in the business. She's a legend. So we met her, and she started working with us. She was able to bring us, her and Marvin started co-managing it. And from there, I was real young at the time, so I'm trying to remember all the details. But I remember Marvin and Bobby ended up getting me a meeting with Kenny Ortiz, who worked. He was the A&R at RCA Records at the time, and Kenny, he was developing a young girl group called SWV at the time. He also had some young producers called the Neptunes at the time. And he was developing them, and so we met Kenny. Kenny was digging me. He felt like I still needed a lot of development, so he said, "I want to work with you, but I'm developing my girl group right now called SWV." He said, "What I'll do is I'll give you a little." They called it back then a demo deal. So that was just like a light little budget of maybe, I don't know, $2,500 or so, just to pay for some studio time, get some real, like solid professional production and recording done on you, because me and Marvin was just going around renegade style. We just was walking up to people and I just start singing. And it was like, okay, everybody's like, yo, okay, this kid is talented, but like, does he have a demo? Does he have a tape? Do you got pictures? Do you have, like, we didn't have none of that. We was just like running up on the cats and I'm just singing. And Marvin's just like, yo, you're going to get a record deal like this. Trust me. I mean, we would hang out outside of record labels waiting for executives to come walking outside. Oh my God, it was crazy times. But, So Kenny was like, yo, you got to get a professional demo tape done. So Kenny sends us to, I think it was Patterson, New Jersey, to work with this young production team called Black Hand. I think they were called Black Hand. And it was a production team, I think a couple of producers, and they had a writer. So the songwriter who was going to be writing my first little demo was a guy named Joe, the singer Joe, right? But at this time, he's just a young dude from Jersey named Joe that could sing his ass off and write like no other. So, another little fun fact, my first demo tapes were written by Joe, you know what I mean? And he's like, hey, what's up, man? My name is Joe, da, da, da. Yeah, I'm working on my own stuff too, blah, blah, blah. Year later, he's fucking Joe. Same thing with SWV. I met them. There was just three little chocolate girls that Kenny Ortiz was developing. About a year later, they're SWV. So I would see this type of stuff happen all the time. And so we did the demo tape. We came back to Kenny. Kenny was digging it. He gave it to his boss. He said, let me set up a showcase for you to meet my boss. A guy named Skip at the time was like the president of RCA. So in the interim of that, while we're waiting for that to go down, this big showcase, Kenny gets a call about Touchstone Pictures and Disney looking for kids that can sing and dance to be a part of like an ensemble choir in Sister Act Part 2 that they were filming. So he told Bobby and Marvin, and mind you, I had never been on an audition ever in my life. I didn't know nothing about auditioning. I didn't know nothing about the acting world. I wasn't even trying to be an actor. I wasn't pursuing an acting career. Nothing like that. And so Kenny's like, yo, y'all should send Ryan on this audition. So Marvin, they were talking to me about it. Funny thing about it is I was so naive to it and green to it that I think I said no. Like, man, I don't want to be no actor. I don't want to, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, I wanted to be Tevin Campbell. I wanted to be, you know what I mean? So they were like, no, man, this could be good for you, whatever. This could be a good move, whatever. Okay, cool. So the day of my audition for Sister Act was the same day as my showcase for Kenny Ortiz's boss, Skip, to, hopefully secure a record deal. So, yeah, go to the Sister Act 2 audition. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have nothing. I don't know how they pulled some strings and just got me on the list to come audition. And I go in there, and it looked like something out of a musical, a high school musical, all these professional kids singing, la, 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 stretching, going over their lines. I was like, what the hell? And then me, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, what is this, And I remember Marvin and Bobby outside of the, out in the waiting room, whatever. They're just like, listen, this is how this goes. Don't get intimidated. Don't worry about whatever. They were like, just go in there, do your thing, and don't worry about if the people in there are really cold to you, if they treat you like they, whatever. Don't worry about any of that. I was like, okay, so I'm thinking it's just going to be like a, next, thank you, next, I'm thinking it's going to be one of those type of experiences. And so I walk in there, and it's just me and this one lady. And this lady, she's got like a little camera set up on a tripod. She's sitting at a desk. She's writing. She's got pictures of different kids all over, I don't even think the lady looked up from her papers. She had glasses on. I walked in. She's just like, okay, come in. She said, stand on the mark right there. Stand on the X. She said, state your name, your age, blah, 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 blah. And then I had a couple. They gave you like some little generic script to read. She said, "Can you read the lines, please?" So I read the little lines, and then she's like, "Okay, you have a song you're gonna sing?" So I sang a song called "I Feel Like Going On," which is a song my mom would make me sing in church on Sunday. So I sang the song like I normally would in church, just sang my little heart out. And I remember the lady. She looked up from the papers. She took her glasses off. She stops the camera, and she started crying. And she was like, "Oh, my God, that voice." She said, I got to hug that voice. And I'll get chills thinking about it. She stood up from behind the desk, walked around, bro, came over and hugged me, like squeezing me. And I'm standing there like, what the, like, this is my first audition experience. Here my managers and everybody's telling me, like, don't worry if they're super cold. Don't worry if they, hit you with the, don't call us, we'll call you, whatever. This lady is bawling, crying, dog, hugging me, and just like, oh my God, that voice. She said, God bless that voice. And then she said, okay, thank you, pulled us up together. And I walked out the room like I was shocked. I didn't know what to even make of it. And so that was the first audition. Obviously, it went well. And then I got a call back, maybe like a couple weeks later, something like that. I had to go back and do it again. A couple callbacks. I think I might have had about 7 callbacks, and the last one was I had to fly out to L.A. and do like a screen test, and it came down to like me and one other kid, and flew out to L.A., met with the producers and the writers and stuff, and I landed the role. The funny thing about it is the role that I ended up playing as a mall, that wasn't even in the script. I was auditioning to be one of the ensemble cast, like just a background choir kid in the film.
Yeah. One line, that's it, and you just...
Not even a line, just singing in the background. I was watching Bill Duke, when I met Bill Duke, the director, the producers, as at that last final audition, they had me like sing, and then they're like, can you say this line? And they're just throwing lines at me. Can you say this? Okay, say this, say this line. Yeah. And as I'm saying, and then I'd say a line, and then they'd huddle, and they'd talk, and then we can, and then the crane shot, and then like they're developing scenes right there in the audition. Oh, and then he can come on. Oh, okay, Ryan, can you say, no, Sister Mary Clarence, I want to do, and I'd say the line, and then they'd huddle. And then they like, and so they literally created that role for me. They created that whole part that ended up being a lead, second to Lauryn Hill, I guess, and Whoopi, but it's like the second, third lead in the movie. So it was really, really a surreal experience, man, to go from never auditioning for anything to having like, the big lead that, that wasn't even in the script. So it was really cool.
All right, so speaking on Sister Act 2, what memories do you have of working with a young Lauryn Hill?
Oh, wow. All fond, amazing memories, man. We, so Lauryn and I were, so here's the funny thing. Most of the cast were adults, that just look young. So, which is how it is a lot of times in film and TV. It'll be older actors that can just play younger roles for high school students.
Yeah, because of the laws and everything.
Like that. Yeah, because of just the talent. Obviously you're working with an adult versus working with a kid. You're working with an adult that can act like a kid. It's just better, easier, and laws and stuff like that. So, Lauryn, myself, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and one other girl, I can't remember her name right at the minute. We were the only real high school students in the film. All the other kids in the class were adults. early 20s, 18, 19. I think Tanya Blunt was in college. Monica Calhoun was like in her 20s. She was early 20s. So because we were the only real high school students, Lauren was like in her last year of high school. That was her graduating year, senior year. While we were shooting, it was my sophomore year in high school. We spent a lot of time together because we were all in the same there was one tutor for the 4 kids. That was, So, and then also, Lauren and I were the only 2 from Jersey. So we really bonded over that. And then they had our housing was at a place called the Oakwood Apartments in Burbank, California. Right, near Disney Studios and Warner Brothers Studios. So, and Lauren's apartment was directly was it beneath mine or above mine? I can't remember, but our apartments were in the same building, right in the same section, and mine was above hers, or hers was, I think she lived upstairs. I can't remember. So we were together all the time. You know what I mean? And we really, really bonded. We really, really connected. She was an amazing, amazing talent, just an amazing person. She was super, super articulate and knowledgeable and educated. I think her mother was an English teacher, and I think her father may have been a professor or something like that. So she was super educated, super smart, super articulate. Oh my God! Just the conversations, just to hear the perspective coming out of this young woman's mouth. Obviously, she was pretty. I had this super crush on her. I think I was 15. She was like 17 or 18. She was older. Oh my God! I just loved her to death, bro. She put me on to Donny Hathaway. She's like, yo, you gotta listen to this guy named Donny Hathaway. She put me on to Stevie Wonder. I mean, I knew who Stevie Wonder was, but I wasn't like super in tune with like his, all his albums. And so she really turned me on to like his albums and like the B-side records and like, no, you got to listen to this song. You got to listen to this album. I only knew Stevie Wonder's hits, you know what I mean? She turned me on to Bob Marley. She turned me on to reggae. It's just amazing, man. She poetry, and she was just super dope, bro. Super dope. And we just had a lot of good times hanging out on set, hanging out at the apartment, hanging out, going to the movies, to the mall, stuff like that. We were became really, really good friends. And she was telling me about this rap group she had, that had this real funny name. They were called the Refugees. And I was like, what kind of name is that? The Refugees. You know what I mean? And she was like, yeah, I've got these 2 guys, and they had funny names. One name was Wyclef. The other name was Praz. And I was just like, what the hell? And she's like, yeah, I'm in a rap group, and, we got a record deal, and we're going to, be making some music, blah, blah, blah. And I remember, back then, Lauren really only had about one little rhyme or so that she would say. Like when we would all be freestyling, if we'd be on our break, we would start beatboxing and freestyling and stuff like that. Just all, the cast members, and just kind of have fun rapping and shit. And Lauren used to have like this one little rap that she would say all the time. She wasn't like this crazy, profound, prolific rapper. So to watch her go from that to just becoming like one of the dopest MCs of all time, if you ask me, it was just really, really cool to see, to watch her evolution and her growth. It was really, really cool to see.
One of the most memorable moments of Sister Act 2 was your performance of Oh Happy Day, where you hit an E natural high. Now, I showed that to my son this morning just so I could get a refresher, and he was very impressed with that at 11 years old. So did you do that? Did you hit that note in one take?
Oh man, I wish. The story behind that natural E note is I used to hit notes like that all the time. I was what you would call a late bloomer. So even though I was 15, I hadn't hit puberty yet. So I was, all my friends in high school, were junior high school, they was tall and had mustaches and they could dunk a basketball and all this other stuff. I was still like little. I was still short, you know what I mean? And still looked 4 years, 5 years younger than my age. I didn't really hit puberty till I was like 18 years old. Really, senior year in high school was when I sprouted up, had my growth spurt and all that. So prior to that, I still had the little kid baby voice. I could still hit these little high Michael Jackson notes, you know what I mean? And back then, that was the early 90s, new artist named Mariah Carey was on the scene. And Mariah Carey used to hit these high whistly notes all the time. So I used to, and the fact that I could sing along with her as a boy, but I could sing along with these high Mariah Carey notes, used to get me attention from the girls, you know what I mean? So that was how I got my attention, because I couldn't dunk a basketball. I wasn't playing football. I wasn't doing the stuff that all the other bigger dudes was doing. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to just sing loud, and, you know. And, so I used to see him hit those little Mariah Carey notes all the time. And my manager knew that, Marvin Thompson. So when we were at the studio recording the audio for the Oh Happy Day scene, and I was doing my thing in the studio. Mervyn Warren was the music director for the film, and he was recording my vocals. We had got to that part, and it was really Marvin's idea. Marvin was like, he was like, Ryan, he was like, you should hit one of those crazy Mariah Carey notes you be doing. So I was like, okay. So we tried a take of it, and I think I might have nailed the beginning, but I messed up the ending, you know. Then we tried another take of it. I messed up the beginning, but I nailed it at the end, you know. So we did about 3 takes, I think, and we got it right. You know what I mean? And they were able to use, I guess, the 3 different takes that I did and kind of make it one. But yeah, I was hitting it. You know what I mean? And but it definitely took me a couple tries.
Like I said, my son was very, very impressed, because he's not used to seeing somebody so young being able to hit a note that high. And I told him, man, that's one of the hardest notes for any singer to hit, because it takes a lot of skill to hit a note that high and hold it.
Mm-hmm.